Hi everybody, I'm at the beautiful Highland Flats farm. We are so excited because we're at the first ever Glamping Beauty School and we are going to see a micro-sized distillation of this beautiful blue spruce tree behind us. They cut one down just for us to show us the seed distill process firsthand. I cannot wait. Definitely stay tuned. I will post those videos as they happen. Have a great day. How exciting! About to get our learn on.
Yeah, thanks again for coming to Highland Flats Farm. You'll never be the same after this. The goal is to let the process and the personalities behind it speak instead of just listening to me. We have a slideshow in the distillation presentation we'll get to, but we're going to do the best we can to kind of show you how the harvesting happens of the trees. And so
we're gonna give you guys a demonstration of what we do every day when we're making the chips so that Brett and his team can distill. We've been working on the chip size to try to get them down to where they're not quite as big, and we figured that if we could get them down smaller, and this machine that we just purchased here recently has made it to where we can adjust the size of those chips to get them down to a smaller size where we can try to utilize every little bit of oil out of those chips. So there you go. The larger trees, you know, we try to take that trunk, that larger size of the trunk down to like, where it gets down to like a 6-inch, and then we try to, that's the part that we want to save to chip, and that lower part ends up getting taken to the lumber mill so that it, you know, it doesn't get wasted. Because there's not a lot of oil in that bigger part of the stem, and so that's where, you know, we're utilizing the whole tree and making the most out of it. That forwarder takes about, it makes maybe 10 trips a day from out into the brush to the chipper to make a load.
So out here at the farm, we're learning from them firsthand. It takes a whole truck, this whole semi-truck full, to get 5 to 6 gallons of this precious essential oil for us. Talk about painstaking, a labor of love, seed distill firsthand.
anyhow, we have a slideshow we're going to start going through, and you know, before we move on to, I want you guys to know sincerely, me and my guys, we love having you up here. It doesn't matter if it's winter harvest or something new like this. I mean, the enthusiasm, the passion, we feed off it. We love it, and it's really easy to work with too. I mean, you guys are, I mean, you keep on being like, oh, is this a pain? It's not a pain at all. We love it.
And so this is a site here where the existing trees that are still there, those were trees that were left behind because they were a marketable tree for this landowner. This was last winter. Here's the logs that I was talking about earlier. That this was a patch that was about roughly 30 years old, and so it was a pretty good sized tree farm, and we're not done with that. We'll be working on that this coming winter, and we should be able to finish it by spring. It looks like the little mini excavator back there, and what we do is after we get done fording these trees, we do them whole tree, and then we process them right next to the chipper, so that if we can pick them up whole and put them on that forwarder, we found that by dragging them, we end up losing a lot of the needle and some of the limbs, especially when it's cold and frozen. So that makes it a lot of cleanup. But that mini goes in behind it, and anything that's left, we try to pick that up and bring it in so that we can chip it up too. And we're still working on that. everything that you see here is a work in progress. We're always trying to come up with a better way to do it. So you can see where he goes out, he cuts the trees down, lays them down on the ground, and then the forwarder, which is right on the lower side of the chipper there on the right side, he goes out, picks them up, and then brings them into the, we call it the landing. And that's where we process our logs, and then we take the top part of the stem and chip it up for our oil.
I'm the researcher here. So he's covered the harvest. You've seen how we've done it with the equipment, right? So we have a lot of photos here just of the property because it's pretty large, hundreds and hundreds of acres, and you guys don't get to see every little bit in the corner. Not that this will cover it or do it justice, however. It'd be good if you guys get to see it, and also we can approach some of our farming practices because that's important. Everyone wants to know how we grow our trees, right? Because Young Living is, what, the world leader?
The world leader.
Oils,
yes,
right?
yes.
So we need to be doing things right. We need to know that we're doing them right, and that's part of what this farm is all about. Is we get the opportunity to research, and that's why the opening title there was a research farm. We're not just a farm, we are a research farm. We are pushing the boundaries, we want to push the boundaries, right? This is one of our blue spruce fields. We have a lot of trees that have been planted before we bought the property, and so now we get to maintain them, because trees take a while to grow. Turnaround for a 6-foot Christmas tree is about 12 years, right? So that's kind of a long harvest thing compared to like lavender or rosemary or something that's annual, if not biannual, right? So we have to really, really work and figure out how to rotate, where to get our materials, and how to make it happen in a way that is appropriate for the way that Young Living wants to be sourcing all of their biomass. And we can also figure out how to grow trees correctly right now so that in the future we're doing it right. All of this was just hayfield, right? Which is awesome for us because it's ready to plant. And so this year they planted over 100,000 trees, easy, I don't know a number, but this is a stand that we've used for research for the Idaho balsam fir. There was a lot of healthy trees there. We're looking at how they grow over time if you can prune them to make a better oil tree, right? Because you can prune trees into Christmas trees, and they are awesome oil trees, but we can do better, and we know it. So, here we are. We have about a number of acres that's basically dedicated to just figuring out how to grow the best oil tree. So that's our new property. If you come to winter harvest, you'll get a chance to go out there. You'll get a chance to play around in the snow, if you like playing around in the snow, some people don't. I've got a little area out there. I do small batch distillation for research, so we don't have to clear an entire field to see what's happening. Right? And you get a chance to do that with me in a small group, like 20 people, right? Awesome. So if you get a chance, do it. We don't plant from seed. Everyone wants to know, where do you get your seeds? Seeds are really hard to come by because the trees keep them up at the top, right? So if you find someone who can grow seedlings for you and do it in a way that you can agree with, it's better. Because you only get about 50% germination rate if you're lucky, and if we were trying to do that in the ground, your field would look terrible. And Ramito and Mario, I don't know if you've had a chance to meet them, they like pretty fields. Their fields look great. They look great from the ground, they look great from the air. However they look at it, it looks great. So, yeah, so we plant seedlings that are about a year old and they're still very small. And that's so that they have established roots and they grow a little faster for us, right? All the little trees you see on the top right there, there used to be really big trees, and all the tree line there, that whole thing used to be filled in like that. That was Idaho balsam fir, and that's what Gary started with, was this chunk of property that was just covered in the right kind of tree. So but he was able to clear it out, and then eventually get the distillery established here, so they weren't shipping to St. Mary's to distill, right? That was how all of this started, though, is that he found a good source, and Brett knows the story. I'll let him tell it, it's not mine. But that shows you exactly how much terrain that we've opened up for the next go-round. So it might be 12 years, and I hope all of you are still with us doing your thing, but it's going to be a little while, and it'll grow into a beautiful stand, but it's going to take a little time.
This is during one of our winter harvest events, and that's why you see so many people climbing up on the chip pile and looking all around. And we let them do that. Steam's a sterile medium to do extraction with. Even if you look at a black pepper bottle, it's going to say steam sterilized. We're explaining what sets our distilleries apart distinctly from others. And I mean, it starts with the feed water we use for our boilers. We introduce 0 chemicals. Most boilers have pH adjusters, descalers, a thing called an oxygen scavenger. We feed raw water from the mountains to the east of us, called the Cabinet Mountains, into our boiler and turn that into steam for the extraction. Then as soon as the steam enters any biomass we're going to be extracting from, whether it's an herb or tree, from then on everything is stainless steel. And if you know stainless steel, it's at least 308 grade or above. We have to have gaskets to seal in the pressurized steam or water in the separator, so we use FDA food grade, heat resistant, oil resistant rubbers. So it's about as clean as you can make the process. So one of the really formative experiences that happens in this distillery is the dancing of the chips. And it serves a really important purpose. Could you imagine we're introducing pressurized steam in the bottom of all those wood chips? If it finds a path of least resistance, it's just going to cheat through that one area and chimney up. And so it's actually a very purposeful process that, when you'll notice it start to shrink a little bit in this time lapse, that's because we do introduce a little bit of steam and it shrinks the material down so we can add a little bit more and make sure it's compacted in a way that's going to force the steam around the maximum amount of surface area of the wood chips for maximum extraction. So what you're going to see now here is our hoist removing the, each one of the chambers in Highland Flats holds roughly 13 tons of wood chips. And so our hoist and the spider you can see hanging from the air right there, that's a spreader bar we call the spider. That's how we pick these. If you watch here, it happens fast, maybe you missed it. But so this is the blue spruce right here, and it's that beautiful pinkish, almost metallic color. And this is a time-lapse video, obviously, of that all happening very fast. Don't blink, and you'll see us tap it off, too. You'll see faces come in, and the oil actually get tapped off of the funnel. Here it goes. See a couple faces come in. When I first laid eyes on this property, the whole entire thing was 30-foot tall Christmas trees that Gary was up here with a crew chipping. And he found this property in 1998. And started chipping these trees. So we are, we'll call this winter harvest the anniversary, right? So that's pretty exciting. I think it's been going on that long. So, but and some of you, this is kind of historic too. If you knew Eldon Niddle, he was the only other person that would drive the double semis from this location right here all the way to St. Mary's. And you've driven that road.
I actually did that with Gary.
You drove?
Yes. Not driving. No, Gary let me drive.
Oh, okay. Go Marcella too then.
To prove to my son that a woman can do this.
Okay. Well, that's a part of the story I didn't know.
Yes.
So you can imagine from 1998 till 2014, every winter Gary would drive these trucks personally. Him, Eldon. Officially the construction started here in 2013. And then it officially went online in 2014. And I remember the first load Gary brought in through these doors and unloaded, he had tears in his eyes. And he was like, you just don't know what this is. Like, he loved it, but it also, it was really high stress. And so 2014, in a sense, we've been making the Idaho Balsam Burger and the Blue Spruce.
So my job primarily here is to test the oil. So the general idea is once these guys get done with the distillation, they collect the oil, they put it in a barrel, they put it somewhere until something happens, right? That something is we test it to see if it's the oil we want. Because you can make a lot of different oils from one plant. Gary realized this a long time ago. And because of that, it inspired him to bring the quality to the farms, right? Quality control doesn't start in Spanish Fork at QC, it starts here. And if you can do that, you actually control the entire supply chain. You control it from growing it, to distilling it, to bottling it, and shipping it out. And that's the goal, right? Now, the data that I'm producing here, and so everyone knows what this instrument is, right? A GC. This is part of one of the big pillars of Young Living is that we use this technology everywhere. Every farm has access to one of these in one form or another. We require our partner farms to also produce data sets that are comparable, if not have this on site. That's what sets us apart. That's what being a world leader in this industry is making the industry adapt to keep up with us, right? This isn't normal. You don't go to distilleries around the world and find a GC just sitting in the corner, right? It's expensive. I've got the cheap model. It's okay. It's still really nice. I appreciate it. But it was over $50,000 without the add-ons, right? So that's something that most people aren't willing to afford, even if they can. We decided that we needed to do it better. We needed to do it right. So here we are. Gary implemented having these, at least let's say, available to every corporate farm. It requires all the partner farms to be up to par. So that's why it's such an important thing. And it's important because it measures the oils by every molecule type. Basically what we're trying to do with the GC, as well as all the other tests that we do, is to make a profile. So we know what the oil is, right? Exactly what it is. And so when we say, here you go, here's your Idaho balsam fir, we know exactly what it's made of. And this is what it looks like. It's kind of messy, I get that. It's, this is all what we're trying to keep track of. So every line on there, save the dotted line, and then this curvy line is a different type of molecule. It's a major constituent in Idaho balsam fir, okay? This is all the data from Kettle 1, 2018. And what we can see from this is that it doesn't stay the same all the time, right? I mean, that should stand out to anyone. That graph is jumping everywhere. So how do you make a consistent product with that? That's where this testing comes in. We know what it does over time. We know what the plants are doing over time, because they're making the oil for themselves, not for us. I mean, I don't want to burst any bubbles, but the plants do it because they need it for something, right? So if we can understand how the plants behave and what that means for the oil, we can make a consistent product over time by our blending and batching informed by this, right? That's the goal. And that's the true quality that we're trying to shoot for, and this is where it starts. I say it's backed up test after test after test with QA, QC, and R&D if it's needed. And it's not easy, it's not simple, it takes time. So another question is, and this is where Brett was going to mention how many barrels of like this size will be shipped out. I believe he said it was between 46 and 47 this year, barrels that size. Heard someone asking how many trees go in the truck. You get about 16,000 5 mil bottles out of one truckload, right? We've done this over and over. It's not because we're not producing necessarily, it's because to do it right takes time. When our oil gets to the warehouse, on any given day, it could have maybe a few barrels ahead that need to get tested as well. You could have 14 tons of oil that needs tested. We use an immense amount of material. So the Spanish Fork, the QC is expanded. They have a nice big new lab. The growing pains of getting caught up with testing are starting to diminish, right? Same thing with the distribution center. All their operations are expanding. And that's where we're having to keep up with logging and all the efficiency, everything else. We're doing the same thing, it's company-wide. And so this is one of the efforts to make a consistent product and have it happen for you every time, because you don't want a bad oil. And that's not what we want either. But anyway, so this is our data, this is what we produce. And you can see how the yield fluctuates over the year. That's important for us because we want to make the most oil when we can. You know, you don't want to waste time, energy, and everything else making oil at the worst time of year. Now, the reason we have winter harvest is because Gary figured out a long time ago that winter's the best time to harvest this particular crop. If you look at this peak, that's January, so winter, right? It's really cold, and that was the absolute highest yield we had the entire year. It was also in the most stable time period for the oil, right? That's why he did it. He figured it out a long time ago. We've been able to verify it, maybe with lots of data, but he figured it out and set that up, and now we have the event, winter harvest. We can harvest the rest of the year. We have to be careful and informed. However, that's how it started. So, say once again, come to winter harvest. We'd love to see you. So a lot of this too is research is trying to develop new ways to look at crops, right? So everyone knows what drones are, that they're useful, this, that, and the other, but how do you use them in a way that actually makes sense, right? There's not a lot of people who use drones to look at how much oil are in trees. Just not something people do. I guess I do it, but other people don't. So we're trying to develop ways to start to identify how do you decide if this field's ready to harvest? How do you decide if it's healthy to harvest? How do you decide all those things? We've decided that looking at light spectrum is one of those ways, right? We have a lot of different drones, we have a lot of different things going on. This is a little travel drone that goes with me places when I'm looking at new stands, looking around, whatever. We have bigger, fancier ones that are multispectral, lots of technical stuff, we'll talk about later. However, it's one of the next steps. Yeah, so we're getting mapping done, we're getting drone analysis done, and we're going to try to really, really push the boundaries that way so we can hone in on herbs as well. Trees are easy to start with because they are trees, they're all year, you know, they're evergreen, you can work with that. Herbs, you have to catch it really, really frequently. So that's where down in Mona, they have a different set of drones, and they have dedicated pilots to just try to figure out how often we need to be flying in order to see if the oil production is on par. And if we can get it nailed down, then we can go anywhere in the world and start flying drones and start estimating what we think we're going to get. So that's exciting. Just a little side project you don't hear much about. Our farms department, we get displayed, but you don't know what we do a lot of times. Like, you guys don't get to do this stuff unless you come to the events, right? So, anyways, so that's where we're at. That's where we're pushing this, is looking at not only how to make the best product, but how we can make the best product better as far as our production.
Luba, can you take 1 minute and share how you communicate with all the other farms around the world for best practices, because nobody else does that in the world?
What we do is so unique, and a lot of people end up not having a background in it. They have a background in this part or that part, depending on their education or life experience. But one of my favorite things is going to the convention every year, and all of the farm managers and staffs, we go out together every single night. We stay up late. We talk about a lot of different challenges we've had, mistakes we've made, but I mean, even we communicate every day. Corey Houghton called me yesterday. And the strange thing is, I told Corey, I was like, I don't spend all day thinking about you, but I was just thinking about you and looked at my phone and you're calling. You know, how that works, right? So, I mean, yeah, and I mean, that's, what's that?
He's in British Columbia.
Fort Nelson.
Yeah, he's in Fort Nelson, BC. Yeah,
Many
you bet.
people might not know that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought everybody knew Corey. Sorry. So, but I mean, that's the way things are structured in Young Living too, though. I mean, we have an incredible amount of autonomy. I mean, we're allowed, we don't get in trouble for sharing ideas or, I mean, it is great. I mean, one thing I didn't get to talk about that I love about this distillery here is we took all the byproduct water, what hydrosol or, floral water, and for us, it's an effluent wastewater that we're held responsible for by different government agencies. And we filter it and we adjust the pH, and it became our cooling water inside our condensers. And that was out of necessity.
That was genius.
And it's a non-contact cooling water, right? The steam is on the inside of the tubes, and the water's on the outside. And so, and just to brag for a minute, it was an idea I came up with, but saw other places. Then I talked to Nicholas Lundell at a convention, and he's like, how did you come up with that?
France. He's from France.
Yeah, you guys, okay, I'm sorry. Nicholas Lundell, the manager of the French farm. We were at one night at a convention, he's like, how did you come up with that? And I'm like, we had to, it was out of necessity. He was like, you came up with that. I was like, yeah, I guess, Nicholas. I mean, I had the concept, and then we all worked on it, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, that's what we've done in France forever. What else are you going to do with floral water? But we all have that chance to communicate, and I mean, it's improved every farm. So.